Jeez, taking forever for that to boot up. Come on, tablet, jeez. Boot up already. We're experiencing ultra slow boot up here. Come on, tablet, boot up. Come on, tablet, boot up already. It's working on it. Come on. Jesus, about time. Holy Christ. Kathy's here. How you doing? I'm having tablet problems. Come on, finish booting up. Come on, come on. Finally, Jesus. I really can't bitch about it. I mean, it's only 17 years old. Or, let's see. Yeah, 17 years old. I wish there was some way you could change the battery, but not on something this old. You destroy it trying to take it apart. I guess I'm finally going to have to break down and transfer the music out of it already. Boy, I'll tell you what. I am pissed at all three auto parts companies I've got around me. I've got Advanced up the street. I've got Awful Zone that way, and O'Reilly's down across the street, what used to be the old Sears. And none of them have my goddamn brake lines. Yeah, the Rambo's here. All right, let's get the music out of the way. Broadcasting live from Studio 1 of WDWL TV. Its corporate offices are located on Grumpy Vulture Boulevard, and my studios are located on Grumpy Old Man Road. And okay, everybody's here. Kathy's here, Ron's here, Linda's here. Roll call's over, that's it. Show's over. Have a nice day, folks. See ya. Oh shit, I forgot. Oh, that looks tacky. Come on. That looks tacky. There. I brought the blue light over from Studio 2 to illuminate the WDWL TV sign. That's okay, Linda, you're here. I don't say, hey, anybody that's not here at 7 o'clock can't be here. I don't know why I'm so hard to locate. I do this show every night. YouTube is strange. Almost as strange as the fucking auto parts stores around here. Jesus Christ. I just about lost it when I went into O'Reilly's and they didn't have the parts. And I says to the guy, I says, this is ridiculous. I says, Advance didn't have them. AutoZone didn't have them. I said, no, you don't have them. I says, what is with metric brake lines? I said, 99% of the goddamn cars on the road are metric today. And he says to me, he says, well, not that many backyard mechanics, which I know. And he says, if a car goes into a dealership, they order from their parts department. And most mom and pop garages, they have just spools of brake line and they put the compression fittings on and they have flaring tools so they can run a line from the back of the car to the front just like pulling it off a reel. Freeform brake lines are slowly becoming a thing of the past, which I've discovered. So, matter of fact, the only place that offered to order it for me was AutoZone. So I said, order them. When can I get them? He said, maybe tomorrow. They might be in stock at the warehouse. It's, you know, I've said this over and over and over. The day of the backyard mechanic is slowly disappearing like the dinosaurs. The only people fixing cars are old assholes like me. Because 90% of the kids today don't know a screwdriver from a pair of pliers. Well, not so much around here. I mean, I drive through the neighborhood all the time, Linda, and rarely do you see somebody. Now, I do have to give credit where credit's due. There's a couple of teenage kids that just live up the street from me that are always working on cars. And I stopped one day to congratulate them. I said, boy, I love seeing this. And they said, well, we can't afford to take it to a shop. And did my heart good when they held up a Chilton's manual. And they said, whatever isn't in the Chilton's manual It's trial and error. Matter of fact, they were working on the brakes on, I would say, maybe a 2000 Honda. But there's like 3 or 4 of them. And they're always tinkering with cars, which reminds me of me when I was young. But it's getting to be a rarity. I can remember back in the day walking into, oh God, what the hell was the name of the goddamn, their logo was a guy that had like a 6-foot neck. And glasses. Forest City Auto Parts. I can remember walking into Forest City Auto Parts on a Saturday morning, and you had to take a number. They were that busy. The other day, I stopped into Advance because I needed some power steering fluid. There was nobody in the place. Matter of fact, there were 3 people, each standing behind the register, kind of looking like they were trying to stay awake. You know, Linda, my buddy's granddaughter is like that. She does her own tune-up, she does her own oil changes, she does her own brakes, she does her own tire rotations. And to look at her, first of all, she's a little tiny thing. Christ, I don't think she's more than 5'1", maybe 85 pounds soaking wet. And she just a whiz with her car. And I can't remember, she took an auto mechanics course. It was at night school somewhere. Maybe Tri-C Parma. I don't know if they still offer it. They used to offer a night auto mechanics course. But that's a rarity. I remember I want to say maybe no, it wasn't my senior year in high school. I think maybe 11th grade. There was she was a tomboy. Matter of fact, she was with a short haircut back when girls didn't do short haircuts. And the one day I was driving, I didn't even know it was her street. I'm driving down the street, and I happened to look, I don't know why, I looked up the driveway, and I recognized her car. It was up on ramps. And I see 2 legs sticking out from underneath, you know. I thought it was her brother. So I kind of paused, and I'm looking, and next thing you know, she slides out from under the car, She was doing an oil change. So I pulled in. And I said, "You know how to fix a car?" She says, "Oh, God, yeah. My father started teaching me when I was like 5. And we dated for maybe 6, 7 months. And neither one of us could take the ribbing anymore. You know, they made fun of her for being a tomboy grease monkey, and they made fun of me for dating a tomboy grease monkey, and we did a kind of a mutual breakup. And then I dated a girl that didn't even know basically how to put the key in the ignition. But I remember back after I graduated high school, I took over on Brook Park Road to Chevy Boulevard by Chevy Parma. Across the street was a GM training center. And at night they offered free auto mechanics. And the amazing thing was, half were guys and half were girls. And then, like I say, I took a course at Tri-C Parma, and I think it was Lakewood High School at the time, had an evening course, auto mechanics for females, or auto mechanics for women. But they taught just the basic, how to check your oil, how to change an air filter, how to change a tire. But it was free, so you couldn't complain. But all that stuff seems to have vanished over the years. But female mechanics are few and far between and a rare breed. That's why it was sad when Jessie Combs died, because she used to do a lot of promoting for girls to get into not only auto mechanics, but welding and fabrication and auto electronics and stuff. She pushed for that stuff. Well, Linda, we don't even want to talk about yesterday. Oh, Jesus. It just, Tuesday night I could have chewed this microphone up and spit it out. And I got no sleep whatsoever. And then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the goddamn pain patch finally started to work. So I basically didn't do shit. Because I knew if I went out and crawled underneath either one of my vehicles to work on them, I'd have been in agony. Well, Kathy, you and your daughter are a rare breed. Like, Linda's granddaughter. It's a dying art. But the sad thing is, like with these goddamn cars today, you can't even change a spare tire because you don't have a spare. So, it's like the auto manufacturers are in cahoots with the towing companies. Because they know if you get a flat tire on the road, you gotta call a tow truck. Which is bullshit. I make sure any vehicle I own, I have a spare tire. Plain and simple. And not a donut. A full-size spare. And a small jack. And if I'm going anywhere, my impact gun. Make sure the battery's all charged. Every year, you're paying more for a vehicle and getting less. It started with the full-size spares when they went to the Space Saver, the donut. Then, they slowly eliminated the donuts. And then they eliminated door locks. First came cigarette lighters and ashtrays. I noticed the Passat does not have a cigarette lighter or an ashtray. So I ordered a cigarette lighter, and I will remove the power port and install a cigarette lighter. And I have a portable ashtray. You can either hang it like on your window ledge, or like I do, I hang it off the glove box. Because there's nothing bigger than pain in the ass than try to flick one of these while you're driving. Sometimes you gotta use both hands. With a cigarette lighter, you just take the thing out, there you go. I ordered it off of eBay. An actual cigarette lighter kit. You know, Linda, you talk about almost being able to rebuild a car. When I was dating, oh my God, what was her name? Antoinette, Tony for short. We actually rebuilt the engine of her car. Took it down to bare block. We had the block pressure tested to make sure it was all right. We had the heads redone. And then from crankshaft to pistons all the way up. Trying to think what the hell kind of car she had. A Maverick. She had a Ford Maverick. It had a 200 cubic inch 6-cylinder. I can't remember what the hell we rebuilt the engine for. We thought it had a bad lobe on the camshaft. So we pulled it and tore it down to nothing. There were parts scattered all over the garage. And after school, I go over there and we'd be working on that engine, and her mother would bring us out sandwiches and cold drinks. I should have stayed with her. But you know how it is in high school. The bullying. It wasn't so much bullying, but they made fun of her because, you know, she was a tomboy, short haircut. Made fun of me for dating her. Oh, Jesus. Give it up already. And since his wife split with him, he's been bringing the tow truck, the flatbed, home every night. And evidently he must have told his crew, I'll take the night calls. And I hear that stupid thing all night long, in and out of the, like last night, he no sooner got home, 5 minutes later, back out. Although it keeps him occupied. So hopefully AutoZone will hit my brake lines. And I gave them a big list of shit. And then something that really, you talk about every goddamn manufacturer cutting a corner. I ordered rear wheel cylinders because there was no way, even with heat, I was going to free up the bleeders. Well, back in the day when you bought a rear wheel cylinder, you got the attaching bolts. 2 little bolts to attach it to the backing plate. Not anymore. I open the boxes. I'm like, and you know, there aren't that many places that carry loose bolts and nuts anymore. Even goddamn Homeless Depot. Of course, the reason they got rid of all their boxes and bins of loose bolts and nuts was due to theft. You know, people ruin it for everybody else. And everything's blister pack. Well, if you don't know the size of the bolt, how are you going to buy a blister pack? We used to have, up at Cam's Corners and Ace Hardware, they had loose bolts and nuts. As a matter of fact, it was the only Ace Hardware in the United States that was totally female owned and operated. And I'll tell you what, those young girls that worked in that store knew their shit. Because I can remember coming in and, as a matter of fact, I think it was goddamn wheel cylinders. And I pulled it out of the box and she goes, "Oh, that's a M1024. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah. And sure enough, she went over the door, she pulled out M1024s. There you go, how many do you need? I said, 4. And you better give me 6, just in case. But Ace Hardware ended up closing that hardware store due to underperformance. Now, there's one in North Olmsted. I'm not driving that far. So I'm hoping, because I forgot to ask the guy, I'll have to run up to Awful Zone in the morning and take the wheel cylinders, and hopefully they have bins with loose bolts and nuts. But you know, what does it cost them to put the goddamn attaching bolts? It just, oh, I was so pissed when I opened them boxes today. As a matter of fact, There is now a new delivery company. I ordered these off of eBay. And they were shipped via Yun Express. Y-U-N, Yun Express. Everybody is getting into the delivery business. Oh, I got something to tell you. Remember I told you I wrote that blistering email to GoFo Express about their left terminal, arrived at destination terminal or facility, left facility, arrived at, but you didn't know where in the country it was. I've had 2 items. One got delivered last week, one got delivered Monday. When you go in to the website for GoFo Express, it now says left facility in Los Angeles, arrived facility Chicago. I was like, holy shit. I guess that nasty email must have made its way up to the top. I couldn't believe it. It actually now says what terminal it arrived at, what terminal it left at, and the time. I was like, Jesus Christ, somebody actually listened to the old fart. Oh, Kathy, that seems to be a standard thing. The last 3 sets of calipers that I ordered, I had to reuse all the old hardware. I don't know. Nobody's paying attention anymore. Like, no quality control. Before they put the calipers in the box, you would think they would check the hardware and go, oh, wait a minute, these are wrong. No, it's just reach over, throw shit in the box, push it down the conveyor belt, screw it. And luckily, when I removed the old calipers, I didn't butcher everything. Most of the time, I'm like, oh, I got calipers, I got hardware, I just rip shit apart. No, I have learned, just like you take it apart gently, because you may have to reuse that old shit. Nobody cares anymore. It's like, hey, if the end user doesn't have the right clips and clamps and collarkins, let him go chase them.
As a matter of fact, the when I changed the calipers on the Nissan, the hardware that came with them didn't even resemble the hardware that was on the vehicle. I don't know what that shit was supposed to be for, but it sure as hell wasn't for my vehicle. This goddamn chair pad is getting like the one over in Studio 2. It's getting wheel marks in it. If I roll back a fraction, the chair slides right into them. He might be ordering from like a mom and pop parts place. Either that, or he's got a connection like at AutoZone or Advanced or O'Reilly, somebody that is going to double check shit before they give it to him. Now, a little mom and pop type parts operation, they're going to make sure the shit is going out right because they don't want to lose a customer. They can't afford to. But if it's somebody like O'Reilly's or Advanced, AutoZone, then he's got someone working there that is really diligent about making sure everything goes out the door with the right parts and pieces. But that's hard nowadays because of the turnover in these places. Now, if he's dealing with, a big national chain, he might be dealing with a manager or an assistant manager. But if it's just a kid behind the counter, I know when I go up to Advanced, lately I've never seen the same person twice. Matter of fact, the girl that took care of me the other day, it was only her second day on the job. In a way, I can understand it because, like I say, I was in there, it was right around lunchtime. There was nobody in the store, there wasn't a car in the parking lot, and all three of them were like waiting for a customer to walk in the door, like me. I say, I remember back in the 70s, we had Forest City Auto Parts. And when you go in on a Saturday morning, you took a number. That's how busy they were. And they always, very rarely, were they out of stock on something. And then, I don't know what happened to Forest City Auto Parts, but they disappeared. But I remember their logo was this guy had a big long neck. You know, I think their slogan was, "We got the part you're looking for," or something. And where the O'Reillys is, I rarely drive down there. Like I say, I've got an advanced couple of blocks this way. I got an AutoZone a couple of blocks this way. And if they don't have it, then I make the drive down to 110th and Lorraine to O'Reilly's. Well, Linda, he's got a bonus. He's dealing with someone that wants to please a customer. And they want to keep pleasing a customer. So they make sure that they take care of it. But that's a rarity nowadays. We used to have an independent mom and pop. It was called Spider. Who the hell's calling? It said potential spam. Potential spam at 7:49 in the evening. Where was I? Oh yeah, Spider Web. How they named it Spider Web Auto Parts, I don't know. And it was to the point where you couldn't get in the door. It was a small place. And on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, you couldn't get in the door. And they made it a point. If somebody came in a second time, they got to know the person by name. And I can remember going in there and people would be coming in going, Fred, come on over here. I'll take care of you. Joe, over here. He'll take care of you. You know, Sam, come on over. You know, they knew everybody walking in the door. And when you got a part, it was the right part at a good price, and it was a quality part. And to this day, I know why they went out of business. Because the sons, and the owner had two sons, they really did not want to be working in that auto parts store. Because it was Dad and the two sons. And when Dad passed away, they fucking sold the business. They were out of there like rats jumping a sinking ship. And the place was a gold mine. I can remember going in there like on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and there being 8 or 10 people waiting to be waited on. Everybody went there. Everybody. And they delivered to every single repair garage in the area. But as soon as Dad passed away, they just closed the place up, sold off the inventory, sold the building. And you know, Linda, battery cables are the most overlooked item when a car goes dead. They are the most overlooked. And if you've got a crooked garage that wants to make money, they will find that battery problem and then sell you a battery, or a battery and a starter, or shit you don't need, because they want to make money. I remember gas stations back in the day, if you pulled in and you had a problem like that, they tighten your battery cable. Have a nice day. See ya. And I mean, I remember back, a friend of mine in high school, his father owned a service station. And he taught, get this, he taught the employees when they were checking oil how to short stick it so that it would show a car being a quart low. And he would say, walk right over and show the customer, look at your quart low in oil. And people would, of course, those were the days of self-serve too, or not self-serve, where you had a guy pumping your gas. And people would, put a quart in. Well, those were the days when you had the metal oil cans and you put a spout in it. Well, inside the station, he'd have empty oil cans. And the guy would come out very carefully, you know, and they weren't pouring nothing, but they were making a show of it. And that's how he used to rip people off. They didn't need oil, but he taught them how to short stick it. But you know, back in the day, 99% of your gas stations were honest. You know, they come out, they pump your gas, wash your windshield, check your oil, check your fluids, check your tires. I wish I could remember the one state. It's up on the East Coast somewhere. The governor signed a law forbidding self-serve gas stations. It's a law. And I can't remember the state. And it's like olden days, you pull in, ding ding, remember the bell, ding ding. You pull into a gas station, ding ding. Guy come out, fill it up. You check your oil, check your water, check your washer fluid, check the air in your tires, wash your windows. And then when you pulled out, ding ding, you got the ding ding again. God, I miss the days of the gas station bell. Because you could hear outside as well as inside. Ding ding! Guy'd come out. Now, they kind of got away from it over the years before self-serve gas came in. But most of the stations, the guys wore coveralls. And the gas station emblem would be on, and then the name tag. And I remember a couple of, as a matter of fact, it was the Sinclair station. That was one of the first ones to go in the area, Sinclair. The owner of the station wore a white coat like a doctor, and a hat, like a Navy hat. And all the rest of the crew, they wore green jumpsuits because Sinclair was green and white. And while they were pumping gas, he would come out in his white coat. Is he taking good care of you? Oh yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks for using Sinclair. And then the station Sinclair went out. And then the next one was Texaco. We lost them. And then Arco, which was Atlantic Richfield, we lost them. We even had Pure Oil. There was a gas station up the street. Matter of fact, the building's still there. The Pure Oil gas station. Yeah, as a matter of fact, a lot of the Sunoco's are disappearing. They're selling out to independents now. Christ, I think there's only one Sunoco left in the neighborhood. And in a lot of places, there'd be a gas station on each corner. You had your choice. Sinclair, Texaco, Pure Oil, Sunoco, Ohio, Union 76. Now I know out west, they still have Texaco. As a matter of fact, the marathon stations have disappeared from around here too. We are losing so many. Like I said, there's only one Sunoco. Sinclair is gone. Texaco's gone. Union 76 is gone. Atlantic is gone. Ohio is Ohio is BP. Old British Petroleum. Yeah, all the Ohio stations turned into BP. Because up the street, the Texaco and the Atlantic station were side by side. And then down on the corner was Atlantic Richfield and Sunoco. Although we're, Gulf, gone. They're gone. Around here, they're gone. We're getting a lot of Valero. I never heard of Valero. We've got 2 stations, Valero. And Pioneer. Oh, I remember Gulf with the seashell. Their sign was a seashell. I forgot about Gulf. And God, we had a Gulf station up on Lorraine. I don't know why they disappeared. Maybe too much competition. But I know, like, Texaco, they're still big out west. No, Gulf didn't have the seashell. Oh, you big dumbass. That's another one that the last Shell station in the area closed up 2 months ago. They're gone. Yeah, Shell. Gulf was around. Yeah, Gulf was bright orange. No, we still have a Shell up at 150th and Lorraine. But the Shell that was at 140th and Lorraine, which was a mechanic shop, gone. I couldn't believe it. I drove past it. There was a big dumpster in the parking lot. All the pumps were gone, and the building is boarded up. And I pulled into the BP across the street and I said, well, he said, in the matter of a week, they closed the station on a Monday, and by Friday it was an empty building with no gas pumps. Another one that, as a matter of fact, they're buying the Sunoco's race fuel. I never heard of race fuel. So we have a race fuel and a Pioneer, and then we have 2 Valeros, but no Gulf, no Texaco, no Atlantic, gone. All of them gone. No, we don't even have any Exxons anymore. No Exxons, no Mobil. What Exxon Mobil? But they're gone. %90 of the gas stations now are independent. And they literally rip out the service garage and they build beer caves and put fast food kitchens in. We've got 3 stations that used to be repair shops. They ripped out the lifts, gutted the garages, built beer caves, and fast food kitchens. You're slowly getting forced, if you want your car repaired, to go to the big boys, Conrad's, Firestone, Walmart. The mom and pop places I've got 2, and I can't get my RAV4 into either one. They're so busy. I remember down on 130th was a guy by the name of Dalhart, D-A-L-H-A-R-T, Dalhart. He only worked on Chevys. Big sign, Chevrolet Specialist. And that's all you ever saw in his parking lot was Chevys. Dalhart. I'm going to have to take a ride down and see if he's still in business. But if you had a Chevy and you needed it fixed, you took it to Dalhart. And it was a little mom and pop operation. But that is the only thing he would work on. If you pulled in with a Ford, forget it. Chevrolet specialist. I wish we had some of them around here. I remember, matter of fact, talking about tires, Linda. There was a tire shop. Oh my God, I'm trying to think. Off of Pearl Road somewhere. And this place was built back like in the late 20s. A family operation. And they had a lift outside the building. Not inside, outside. The old one poster. And I always felt sorry for the guys doing tire jobs in Cleveland weather in the middle of December, ass deep in snow. They had that single post lift that had the arms that went out to the frame rails. And it was a tire shop. And all the tires were inside. And they did the tires outside. Now they roll them in and, break them down and mount them inside. But all the work had to be done outside. Valero's out of San Antonio. Really? That's odd to have a couple of Valero stations in Cleveland. Evidently, it must be like a franchise. You have an old gas station and you buy the name off of them, maybe. Because I know both places are converted gas stations. The one was what the hell was it? Well, it was independent for several years. Bill's Gas or some shit like that. And then next thing I know, I saw Valero signs and the Valero gas pumps. Well, yeah, Linda, I want to stay away from them too, but Jesus Christ. They're disappearing. There used to be a mom and pop operation almost on every corner. Not anymore. As a matter of fact, the old Sinclair station is a used car lot. I just remembered it. When the Sinclair closed, they turned it into a used car lot. Well, the Bolero was a pretty big operation. Wow, that's interesting. And they're in the UK too? Wow. I guess I'm going to have to pay more attention when I'm watching Killer in My Village, when they show a gas station, and see if I see a Bolero. I see a lot of BPs. Yeah. Right there. The Sinclair dinosaur. And at Christmas time, they had Sinclair dinosaur blow-up toys. You know, like you'd use for a swimming pool. Because I remember going into the Sinclair, and the whole inside of the station was full of blown up plastic dinosaur toys. Buy your kid a Sinclair dinosaur. I mean, they carried them all year round. But around Christmas time, I guess that was the job of the employees. Blow up 50 or 60 dinosaurs for me. Every now and then they'd have a thing, like a free dinosaur with a fill-up. And you got a dinosaur blow-up toy. And then they vanished. I don't know if Sinclair is still... I never heard of a Sinclair station. I know of Texaco because I've seen news stories, you know, and you see the Texaco station in the background out west. Not to mention, you know, all of these we used to have back in the 20s and 30s. Signal Gas, Polygas, American Gas, Husky Gas, Rooster Gas, Ace High Gas. What else have I got here? Flying A, Red Crown. Well, Red Crown, that's out of England. Now, of course, Standard Oil. Yeah, Red Crown, that was out of England. We didn't have any Red Crown stations. As a matter of fact, that Pure Oil station that basically is at about 132nd in Lorraine used to be. My grandfather only bought gas there, and they lived down by the West Side Market, West 25th. He'd drive all the way from West 25th to 132nd to buy pure oil. That's the only gas he ever used. Because I remember the guy that owned the station's name was Bill O'Leary. And when Bill retired, they turned it into strictly a repair shop. And they did away with the gas. And then my grandfather was forced to, I think he used Ohio. But I remember when he needed gas, he would drive all the way across town because he trusted pure oil, gasoline. Well, I wish 2 days. The guy up the street is booked up till the end of the month. And the other one that I use, he's booked up until the 3rd week of August. So, and both of them do quality work. I mean, that's why they're so goddamn booked up. And they're very reasonable. You know, like I told the guy when he told me, he says, I can't get you in until the 1st week of September. I said, well, you know, I'm not going to do a $500-600 repair on a $200 car. Matter of fact, there used to be another one that I used. He was up at 140th and Lakewood Heights. Capacciones. And same thing. When the old man retired, the kids sold the business. And Capacciones is now a speedy gas with a beer cave and a food kitchen. Well, Ron, being an attorney, or a retired attorney, you can get out of jury duty. I remember the one time I got picked. And I tried to get out of it. And you know, they question you. And I remember one of the questions, you know, were you ever involved in an auto accident? Yes, I was. What kind of auto accident? I got hit from behind. Well, this happens to be, it was a lawsuit over someone getting rear-ended. Would that sway your opinion? I was like, I don't know, yes or no, I can't. Well, they decided to keep me. Then the other attorney got up and he said, now, does anyone here know Cleveland police officers from the 1st District? Yep, me. He said, do you know officers by the name of Thomas Stimick and Gerald Bielewski. And I said, well, it's Thomas Stymack and Gerald Bielewski. You're excused. Okay. Yeah, it came down to that last question. Of course, I knew both of them. They used to stop over at my house all the time. As a matter of fact, and Timmy could verify this, maybe. When the city of Cleveland was on the verge of bankruptcy, they didn't have money to repair police cars. And one day, Stymack and Bielewski showed up. And they said, how long will it take you to put front brake pads on our car? I said, 15, 20 minutes. They said, good, we've got them right now. We don't have any brakes on this goddamn police car. And they bought the parts, and I put front pads. I said, man, if these rotors are warped, this thing's gonna vibrate like hell. And they said, we don't care, at least we can stop. So I knew those two very well. And that wasn't the only police car I ever did that to. It got pretty sad when the officers had to buy parts to keep their cruisers on the road. I'll be home around, geez, I don't have it, both of my cars are down. The goddamn Nissan, the brakes are out permanently now. At least I had some stopping power for a while. And I'm getting fed up with the RAV. I'm about ready to put a bullet through the block. I don't know why that thing won't run. I'm about ready to give up on it. I really am. I'm so fed up with that car. And it's probably something stupid. But there ain't too much I can do. Well, Ron, did you ever think that maybe Kathy and Linda wanted to keep it a surprise? Is it coming FedEx, UPS, or US Mail? Because if it's coming US Mail, it won't be here until around 4:30. That's how late I get my mail. If it's coming UPS, I'll have it between 11:30 and 1:30. If it's coming FedEx, who knows, whenever the hell they decide to deliver. Well, Ron, I always get my packages, believe me. First of all, they don't get delivered to my front porch, so no chance of a porch pirate. Second of all, my UPS man, if I'm not home, He puts the package behind the house so nobody can see it. Then he leaves me a note. Well, Linda, tell him I put a new fuel pump in it, a new fuel pump relay, a new fuel filter, a new cap, a new rotor. I checked all the wires with a multimeter. The wires are fine. New plugs. I'm getting spark. Man, I almost jolted myself off, almost knocked myself off on my ass. It will run for about a minute, chugging. And when I pull the spark plugs, they're soaking wet with gasoline. But I am getting a hell of a spark, and they're brand new fucking spark NGKs. I don't know why it won't continue to run. It makes no sense. USPS in Twinsburg. Twinsburg is FedEx. When I plugged my scanner, it said air intake sensor. I replaced it, brand new. That's the only thing it showed. That was the only code that it threw. Air intake sensor. I bought a brand new one from Toyota. I didn't want to pay the money for it, but it's not throwing any other code. That was the only code it threw. I cleared the codes. I tried it again. Nothing. I tried starting it. It ran, quit. I plugged the scanner in. No codes. That's what's driving me crazy. The only code that it showed was the air intake sensor. It's not showing anything else. That's why I'm banging my head on the wall with this thing. Tomorrow I'm going to jack the thing up, and I'm going to trace the fuel lines from the tank and then back. I have a sneaking hunch that maybe the fuel return might be clogged or pinched because the plug should not be wet. It's like it's getting too much gas. I'm about ready to slam my head. Well, I have slammed my head on the hood several times. Kathy, it's driving me insane. And the strange thing was, I drove it the day before, and it ran fine. I come out the next morning, I go to start it, it ran for about 30 seconds and stalled, and I said, oh, this ain't my RAV4. And it would not start after that. It makes no sense. How you could drive something, and I was in it all day. I had doctor's appointments, I had errands, I went shopping, and every single time fired right up. This thing ran like a charm. Well, every 5-6 weeks I had to change spark plugs because the oil foul, because the seals are going in the head. But that I change plugs, run 5-6 weeks, chug, okay, time for new plugs. I just kept reordering, and I always had them in the console. And I noticed it was chugging a little bit. I have my spark plug tools right in the console. Takes me 15 minutes to change them. Pop the 4 wires off, pull the plugs, drop in the new ones. There, go, done. It's stupid. Like I say, Kathy, it's got to be something stupid. That was one of the reasons I was begging the guy up the street. I said, you got to get it up on a lift. You got to get it up high enough to see what's going on. There's something fucked up with it. But you know, as gimped up as I have been lately, I can't be crawling around underneath goddamn cars. You know, I can only jack the son of a bitch up so high. It's got to go up on the lift. And, you know, trace, okay, gas tank up to the engine, okay, engine back to gas tank. But how you can have a car that ran fine and the next day, nothing. And when I went to check the spark, I have a big electrical clip. I put it around the spark plug, and I was cranking it, and the alligator clip snapped off. And instead of me letting go of the key, I grabbed the alligator clip and I think, whoa! Whoa. And all 4 plugs are great spark because I put a new cap and rotor in it. And you know, when you call Toyota, well, bring it in, sir. Bring it in. By the time you put the scanner on it, the labor is more than what the vehicle is worth. Yeah. I'm going to have the thing towed up to Toyota. But like I say, the guy up the street, he can't even look at it till the first week of September. I had to reschedule all my doctor's appointments to give me some time to get a vehicle going. And now that I have no brakes on the shit box, I'm screwed. I don't have transportation. And I talked to my neighbor, and he said, maybe my mechanic can, he told me, you buy all the parts, all the brake lines, you buy them all. And that way my mechanic can just run a line from the front to the back, put the wheel cylinders on, bleed them out, done. But trying to, you know, work underneath and then, you know, I got my arms up and I can't do that shit anymore. I can't. It's sad that I have to admit to myself, I can't do a lot of the auto repairs I used to be able to do. God, I'll say up until 10 years ago, it would be nothing for me to have a vehicle up on 4 jack stands, have all the wheels off, and do a complete brake job. I can't work like that anymore. I do one wheel one day, do another wheel the next day. It's sad. Sometimes I just want to sit down and cry. I just want to sit down and cry. Because I cannot afford to send a vehicle to a repair shop. Like Conrad's or Firestone or Walmart. Can't do it. Too fucking expensive. Not to mention, you know, I'm driving 30-year-old vehicles. That's why I was hoping I could get the Passat over here and put a illegal plate on it and tinker around the neighborhood. At least I'd have some transportation. And I hate asking somebody to drive me somewhere. I hate it. Like the other day, you know, Mary Ann was going up to Mark's. I asked her if I could go with her. Yeah, sure. Although shopping with a vegetarian, and you know, that's part of the problem with these, ever since we got fuel injection. You know, in the old days, you got gas from the tank and it went up to the carburetor and that was it. With fuel injection, you got gas from the tank, then whatever unused gas isn't needed, it gets pumped back to the tank. We never had return lines on vehicles. Now, there's more plumbing underneath a car than in a goddamn $1 million home. Matter of fact, talking about in Rocky River, Kathy, now you know where Rocky River is. There's a 5-bedroom house that has 5 full bathrooms. And on either end of the house, is a master suite with a fireplace. And, get this, Kathy, an elevator. The house has an elevator. $4.999 million. Each bedroom has a complete bathroom with freestanding tub and separate shower stall. Oh, it has 5.5 bathrooms. It has a half bath in the mudroom. Yeah, my friend sent me the listing. Of course, the house, it's built on the lakefront, and it's got them goddamn floor-to-ceiling windows. But each bathroom is probably got, I should say, each bedroom has a bathroom the size of a bedroom. And at either end of the house is a master bedroom with fireplace. And I like an elevator. So if you don't want to take the stairs, you can take the elevator. And the house was not built for somebody that needed an elevator. They just wanted one. Talk about lazy. You can't walk up the stairs to go to bed at night. You take the elevator. I got the listing in my bedroom. I'll bring it in here and read it tomorrow. Maybe you can see the pictures if I hold them close enough to the camera. Yeah, $5 million house was just listed. I'm sure it probably comes with a maid. Can you imagine having a bedroom that has a fucking full-size bathroom with a freestanding tub and a shower, and every bedroom has walk-in closets? Yeah, I'll read the listing tomorrow. It's unbelievable. But I like the master bedrooms, plural, with fireplace. I guess if the wife gets pissed at you, she goes to one, you go to the other one, you both light a fire and read a good book. Yeah, I liked it. 5.5 baths. You gotta have that half bath in the mudroom. I'm like, can you imagine the mortgage payments on something like that? 8 bathrooms. Holy, 18 million. What is this goddamn thing built out of? Gold? Who the hell lives in a house like that? I guess if you got that kind of money, you don't even ask what the mortgage payment is every month, you know. It's like, oh, 18 million? Yeah, okay, we'll take it. Can you imagine being a realtor getting that commission? Holy shit. I could see that realtor saying, oh man, I only sold one house this year. Oh, really? Sorry to hear that. How much was it? 18 million. Can you imagine what it would cost just to heat and cool that house? Holy shit. A house like that would have to have 3 furnaces, if not more. Although I've noticed boilers are coming back. They're saying it's a lot easier to run the heating panels with a boiler than to try to do forced air. Yeah, I had heard boilers are making a comeback. Oh, get this, Kathy. On the second floor is a small kitchenette. I just remembered. So you have this big sprawling kitchen on the main floor, and then when you take the elevator upstairs, there is a small kitchenette on the second floor. I'll bring the listing and read it tomorrow. Yeah, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're too fucking lazy to take the elevator down to the kitchen. So you just walk to the little kitchenette and make yourself a watercress sandwich. Or you ring for the maid. Oh, I have to print. I found a recipe for a spicy egg salad. I was just kind of glancing through it. I'm going to have to print it. It sounds delicious. Yeah, Kathy, I could probably see somebody buying it as an investment like that, to make a bed and breakfast out of it, especially, you know, the size of it. Because with each bedroom, it's like a motel room. You know, it's got its own bathroom. So you wake up in the morning and take a bath or a shower or whatever. Then you come downstairs for breakfast. Although right on I think as you go over the Westlake line into Bay Village, there is a street called Millionaires Row. And I took a ride down it one day. And these houses are as big as stadiums. I never saw such ungodly monsters as houses. They got swimming pools like miniature lakes. And the street is called Millionaires Row. And the odd thing is, you drive out of a regular neighborhood. You would never think this is there, because the entrance looks like an entrance to a normal street. And then you drive down Millionaires Row, and there's houses the size of Brown stadiums. It's ridiculous to think of living in something that huge. There had to be rooms in those houses you'd never use. You know, you throw a bunch of fancy furniture in and go, oh, this is the sitting room, you know, this is the lounge room, but you never use it. Definitely not a house you walk around in your underwear in, you know. And you know, they keep building bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger houses. It's ridiculous. But I'll bring that listing in tomorrow. Maybe if I hold it up close enough to the camera, you can see some of the pictures the real estate agent put in. But I couldn't believe it, a house with an elevator. I could see if they had kids all day long. Get out of that elevator. Yes, Mommy. One more ride. Yeah. Oh, I'm too tired to walk the stairs. I'll use the elevator. Let's see. Which fireplace tonight? Left or right? Ridiculous. You know, I could understand having an elevator if, like, maybe you had a special needs child, or maybe you were elderly, but in a normal house, actually, when I read it, I had a good laugh. I was going to sign off. I'm going to smoke my last cigarette. These crappy things, ugh. They were out of my cigarettes, so I end up smoking Crowns. Let's see if they're even made here. Oh, Greensboro, North Carolina. ITC Brands Limited, Greensboro, North Carolina. Made in USA. Tastes like crap. I ain't smoking these ever again. I tell him, oh, you better get my cigarettes and keep them in stock. Yeah, I walked out in the kitchen to make coffee this morning. There's old Bootsy on his back, laying on the kitchen table, fan blowing on his belly. He just kind of looked over at me like, oh, you woke me up. He loves laying in front of that fan. Well, good for you, Ron. Rotten habit I can't quit. Have you said USPS out of Twinsburg? That's the FedEx depot. Middleburg Heights is UPS. Twinsburg is FedEx. Unless that might be a transfer station. Although, like my postal carrier tells me, you know, you go down to the main in the morning and there's just lines of FedEx and UPS trucks waiting to unload. Because with FedEx and UPS, a certain size package, they won't deliver. It gets delivered by the post office. Well, if it went from Cleveland to Twinsburg, it's going backwards. Even Kathy knows that. If a package goes from Cleveland to Twinsburg, somebody screwed up. It's going ass backwards. Although the way some of my packages go, it's amazing following the tracking information how some of the shit hopscotches all over the place. I had a package. It originated in Denver. It went to Chicago. From Chicago, it went right over Ohio to Philadelphia. Like, how come it didn't stop in Ohio? Then from Philadelphia, it went to Youngstown. Youngstown to Sandusky, bypassed me again, and then from Sandusky, finally to Cleveland. Sometimes I think they just want to make their money. Let's send it. Let's really screw with them. Yeah, it bypassed me twice. But from as many packages that I got, I know FedEx is out in Twinsburg. UPS is in Middleburg Heights. Matter of fact, I have a package that was shipped 2 years ago. And it got lost at the main. We were able to trace it to the Cleveland, Maine post office downtown, and it vanished. I never got it 2 years ago. Now the amazing thing is, the guy replaced the item for free. It was a cordless Dremel. I got that one in 3 days. The first one, don't know where it's at. My postal carrier was telling me it's possible the shipping label got torn off of it, and it's in the waiting to be sorted department with about 5,000 other packages. It's like I had several weeks back a package coming FedEx out of Dallas, Texas. It went from Dallas, Texas to Indianapolis, from Indianapolis to Youngstown, from Youngstown to Dayton, Dayton to Toledo, and then finally Toledo to Cleveland. It went right around. And that was from the post office. Oh God, that doesn't even sound good. Ugh, pina colada beef jerky. Ugh. Oh, some of the. Oh. I saw in the store yesterday. And it's got to be a little independent, like mom and pop. Salad dressing. Dill pickle, honey mustard, ranch. If that doesn't sound like the most sickening salad dressing, dill pickle, honey mustard, ranch. Speaking of, I have a couple of burgers marinating right now that are calling my name. So I think we'll wrap it up for tonight. We know where, right here, WDWL TV. All right, everybody, thanks for being here. Have a good, wonderful rest of your evening. And we will meet again right here tomorrow night.